and today we're going to talk about the best children's movies. I hope that from this video, I can prove to you that Kung Fu Panda is a deeper movie than it seems. Actually, anything can be deep if you reflect on it. This movie addresses very interesting subjects such as the pressure of expectations, the inevitability of destiny, the relentless reality, and self-confidence. It seems like a lot of topics for a simple children's movie, doesn't it? But the movie begins with Po imagining what his life would be like if he were not a member of the Furious Five, who are badass kung fu fighters. Then we find out he was dreaming and actually works in a noodle shop with his father, who by the way is a goose. His father asks why he was so late, and he responds that it was because of a strange dream. As we know, he was dreaming about his greatest desire, to be a kung fu warrior, but he lies to his father saying he had a dream about noodles. The goose gets all excited, saying that Po's destiny is to sell noodles, and that he could teach him the secret ingredient of the noodles. Here we can see what the movie is about, mainly expectations, and how reality can be overwhelming. But hold on, I'll explain. All the characters in the movie have an expectation. Po's father expects him to be a noodle seller, Po wants to be a kung fu fighter, Tai Lung, the villain, wants to be the dragon warrior, and we have Master Shifu, who is very strict with his students because of past disappointments. He also has his expectations, and his disappointment is the main motivation behind the villain's actions, all because of an expectation he had. He expected Tai Lung to be the dragon warrior because he was a kung fu prodigy. This expectation was passed on to Tai Lung, and when it wasn't fulfilled, he turned against everyone and became a very bitter, angry person. This villain's motivation drives the entire film. There's also a character called Oogway, who is Shifu's master. He's a very wise character with a typical sage archetype. He's old, says metaphorical things, and also meditates. This is important. Oogway had a vision that Tai Lung would return, even though he was imprisoned after attacking them. This makes Shifu increase the prison security and send a messenger. Here, the movie presents us with several paradoxes.
One often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it.
We find our destiny on the path we take to avoid it. This is very interesting. Would the vision he had have come true if he hadn't said anything? And the seer says something like, "This vision will only come true because he told you about it. He sent you towards this destiny." If Oogway hadn't said anything to Shifu, Shifu wouldn't have done anything, and Tai Lung would have stayed in prison because it was through the messenger's feather sent by Shifu that he was freed from prison. So the attempt to avoid destiny made destiny come true. Kind of like, because of their fear of Tai Lung, they decide to choose the Dragon Warrior, a legendary warrior who can read a very special scroll. They hold an event to select the Dragon Warrior, and the candidates are the Furious Five. Po tries to see the event, but he can't. He makes numerous attempts to see what's happening inside, and in one of those attempts, he falls into the middle of the arena during the presentation, right at the moment when Oogway is choosing the Dragon Warrior, right in front of him.
It was just an accident. There are no accidents.
The Furious Five, Po's father and Shifu, were very disappointed because they had expectations, and they were shattered right before their eyes. Reality doesn't respect everyone's expectations, and is relentless about what you want. The only one who got what he wanted up to this point was Po, because he dreamed of being a kung fu master, and by the irony of fate, he achieved it. One of the few who accepted Po's destiny was Oogway. He is very stoic, much like Epictetus, who was a slave and accepted his destiny. For instance, Epictetus was a slave philosopher who wrote, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, want them to happen the way they do, and your life will be serene." This phrase is very powerful because it comes from a slave who didn't wish to be a slave, but understood that no matter how much he wanted, this condition wouldn't change. He accepted his destiny, realizing that only by doing so could he find peace. Guys, it's no use denying reality. Shifu and the Furious Five spend much of the film trying to discourage Po. He's mocked for being chubby, which is really mean to the poor panda. They try to break him because he doesn't fit the mold. They think he's clumsy, out of shape, and knows nothing about kung fu. At some point in the movie, Po talks about not wanting to be himself, not liking being himself, and that he's only there because he thought Master Oogway believed in him. Po keeps learning things, and I'm sure he compared himself to the other kung fu warriors and didn't accept himself. But this movie and the following ones are about his long journey of self-acceptance and self-worth. It's really beautiful to see. Before he accepts himself, many people say that he doesn't belong there. Many people ignore him and are bothered by him. No one besides Oogway believes in him. There's a common saying you might have seen on Facebook or Instagram.
Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
It's really cliche, but it's still true, right? At this moment in the film, we get a brief story of Tai Lung. He appeared at Shifu's door, and Shifu trained him in Kung Fu from a young age, making him believe he was destined for greatness, to be the Dragon Warrior. Tai Lung dedicated his whole life to this. He was the best at what he did, but Oogway saw evil in his heart and decided not to give him the Dragon Scroll. Once again, reality knocks on the door. If you don't answer, it barges in. No matter what people tell you, the expectations placed on you, or your own expectations, it's possible they simply won't come true. You might never achieve what you want, but if you don't succeed, I don't think it will be because someone saw evil in your heart, but simply because reality is what it is. Unfortunately, contrary to what Oogway says, some things are indeed impossible. Of course, sometimes physical and tangible conditions can change, but the probability of them staying the same is much higher. When the messenger returns to tell Shofu that Tai Lung has escaped, he goes to Oogway, who says,
"It's very bad news."
Shifu. There is just news. There is no good or bad.
Things only feel good or bad depending on your perspective. For example, from Tai Lung's perspective, it's great that he's free, but for everyone else, it's terrible. Here we see one of the best analogies from Oogway, where he says that Shufu and Tai Lung have only fulfilled their destinies when Shufu lets go of the illusion of control. This is more of a Buddhist philosophy, but I only know a little about it, so I can't delve deeply into it. Oogway uses the tree as an example, saying you cannot force it to bear fruit or flowers before it's time. Shufu counters, saying we can control when the fruit falls and where to plant the seed. Then comes one of the most beautiful lines of dialogue in the movie.
But no matter what you do, that seed will grow to be a peach tree. You may wish for an apple or an orange, but you will get a peach.
As much as Shofu wanted Tai Lung to be the Dragon Warrior, he was still Tai Lung. Soon after, Oogway believes that Po is the Dragon Warrior and that things happen as they should. Then he dies. Seriously, his death was so random, the most anticlimactic thing I've ever seen. Suddenly, he turns into a bunch of flowers, and a dramatic song starts playing out of nowhere. Shifu starts to believe in Po a little more from this point on and finds a way to train him. I was happy with this part because they kind of make peace. Everyone had been at odds until now, but at least now they are friends and can laugh together. Po finally gets the Dragon Scroll, which turns out to be blank, actually just a reflective surface that works like a mirror. Po faces Tai Lung and, by sheer luck, manages to defeat him. Really, a lot of luck. If Po's stars had been a little less aligned that day, he would have been sent back to the lobby for sure. The Dragon Scroll is about oneself. It's a mirror that reflects who you truly are. It's about considering yourself worthy of reading the scroll, realizing you are worthy in and of yourself. For Po to get that scroll, he had to go through trials to accept himself and see himself as worthy. As Marcus Aurelius said, life is opinion, so believe in yourself and be worthy of your own Dragon Scroll. But believing in yourself won't turn you into Superman. It won't make you rich instantly, and you might even remain unlucky. Believing you deserve to date a famous person won't necessarily make it happen, just as believing you deserve the most expensive Mustang won't make it appear at your house tomorrow, unless you're incredibly lucky. Reality remains relentless, but honestly, believing in yourself makes all your fears surmountable and slightly increases the likelihood of achieving what you want. It makes it possible for you to act rationally in the most irrational situations. So, from the bottom of my heart, good luck.